guys, welcome to Thought Universe, where we teach and show the truth and the guiding principles of the universe. I am Promise, and today we shall be talking about astrology and celestial bodies as the foundation of the earth. Now, while mainstream science does not see astrology as a science, I believe astrology covers the basic principles of what we can classify as a science, but I am not here to discuss that. Now, let's dive straight into what astrology is all about. Now, astrology studies the position of the celestial bodies, the planets, the sun, the stars, the moon, and how they affect an individual, how they affect humanity, and how they affect the collective as a whole. The position of these celestial bodies literally affects everyone in one way or another through your birth chart. Now, your birth chart is using astrology to map, guide, and foretell a life path for you, and using the celestial bodies, that is the sun, the stars, the moon, and the planets in general. Previous time, astrology was not used for this. In fact, astrology and the use of basically the celestial bodies were a means of survival, a means of navigation, a means of understanding our world. And this was used in ancient time, in that was during the time of our ancestors. Now, these celestial bodies, let's say the moon, have existed, according to radioactive dating, has existed for about 4.5 billion years alongside the Earth. Now, this is billions and billions of years before our probably great grandparents existed. This is a time where there was no civilization as we know it, there was no evolution as we know it. This is a time where there were no tools as we know it. This is the time of the hunter gatherers. This was the beginning of civilization of mankind. It was a time where they navigated living through the use of the celestial bodies, that is the sun, the moon, the cycles of nature, uh, Mother Earth itself, and even water. During this hunter-gatherer era, much of what we know as the zodiac in its current Western structure was not known, and these ancestors and the hunter-gatherer era, they made use of, the celestial bodies, like I said, in navigating and in survival. They studied the stars and map patterns from the stars. They used the sky to navigate time, navigate seasons, and even for rituals. They used the moon to study circles, and they actually drew constellations in which they were able to hunt and gather during specific cycles and specific seasons. Them understanding these constellations, them getting to understand the celestial bodies actually aid in their survival during this time, as it was a time where time as we know it did not exist. It was a time where civilization as we know it did not exist. It was a time where they had to depend and survive according to the rules of nature. Now, this is one of the reasons why, as at that time, the Mother Nature was revered, Mother Earth was revered. The people then studied and honored and revered just not Mother Nature, but also the celestial bodies, because as at this point in time, those were their roadmap to survival. Those were what guided them in their evolution and their level of consciousness. During the hunter-gatherer era, they were observers of the night sky and made and harnessed significant knowledge from, studying the sky and the stars. During this era, they believed that every living thing, everything of nature has a spirit, and this is why they revered nature and its forces. They saw the earth as the sacred being, as the Mother Earth. They saw the sun as the giver of life force and consciousness. They saw the moon as the intuition and bringer of cycles. And then they used the stars and constellations to map patterns and study them as maps, rather, as well. So they also use the cycle of nature and recurring events uh, to understand things that happen as at that time and to map seasons, because as things reoccur, you are able to chart a pattern through certain things, and I believe this is how they survived and evolved from time to now. As earlier on said, during this time there was no time itself as we know it, and you know recurring events and the position of the celestial bodies were used in observing time. And also at this point in time, there was no communication, there was no form of communication, there was no language. So symbols and stories were used to pass across ideologies, were used to pass across, were used as a form of communication. Now, these symbols and shapes, they were giving stories through which people get to understand the knowledge that could be passed across by then, as there was no particular form of language. And if we look deeply into this, various indigenous native speakers and various indigenous language users in various parts of the world all had a form of traditional spirituality. We have the Aboriginals in Australia, we have the Dogon um, tribe, we have the Igbo, the Yoruba, we have the Hopi, we have the Mayans, and these tribes all existed at various parts of the world. In what we currently call America, what we currently call Africa, what we currently call Asia, Australia, and other continents. Each and every one of these continents had indigenous tribes that practiced indigenous spirituality that existed for thousands of years, have existed, and it was the method through which the ancestors were able to evolve. It was a method through which we were able to, at some point in time, we were able to communicate. And one thing that stands out is the fact that at this point in time, during this hunter-gatherer era, there was no form of communication between these various continents. There was no form of communication between these various indigenous tribes. And somehow they all managed to come to the same knowledge, perhaps not in exactly the same way, but they all had a form of traditional spirituality that dealt with honoring the cosmos and acknowledging earth and nature as a form of spirituality. Worship, revering, and honoring of the celestial bodies is something that happened for a very long time, as this was, the early human gatherer way of navigating their survival. This was their highest form of intelligence and spirituality. This was the only way they could connect with the cosmos, and this was the way they could survive and understand the seasons. Now, let's take into note the fact that these celestial bodies have existed for millions and billions of years, even before the forming of religion. Archaeologists date the first religion to be about 60,000 years before Christ era. Yes, you heard me, 60,000 years before Christ era, before the most popular historical figure, Yahushua, which is popularly known as Jesus, existed on earth. There was a religion 60,000 years before that, a different form. Now, also, another thing this points out is the fact that, like I said, at some various points, in various continents, various indigenous tribes had the same form of spirituality, probably not in the same way, but they all understood the basics, nature, and spirit. Now, millions and billions of years later, precisely 2025 years after Christ's era, we have forgotten the importance of, venerating our ancestors and honoring the celestial bodies. We have forgotten the cosmic intelligence that helped in our evolution and consciousness and survival of the early man, the hunter gatherers, and we have forgotten spirit and nature, which is one thing, like I will always say, majority of indigenous native tribe dwellers all had in common. They all understood nature, they all understood spirit, they all had a form of spirituality which united them at a point in time where there was no form of communication between these, different parts of the world, but yet they had almost similar beliefs. This is to tell you that at some point in time, we're all united in a form of spirituality. This is to tell you that the celestial bodies, which have paved the way for the evolution and consciousness of mankind, still is still in existence, and this is to also let you know about the intelligence and the power which they hold. If you enjoyed today's topic, like, share, and subscribe to Thought Universe to get more truthful teachings about the universe. I also have a link to my book, Spirit's Lead. It's a guide to raising your consciousness, and it's what helped me on my spiritual journey. So if you're trying to navigate and find your way around, Spirit's Lead is the book for you. Spirit's Lead is a guide for you. It is a guide to raise your consciousness.